Don't forget, ko-fi.com/stopwritingalone is a real simple way to show your support for what's going on here week after week. Hi, everyone. This is Nicole Rivera, and you're listening to the Stop Writing Alone podcast for writers who are looking for their writing community. I know you want to find readers for your work, but I think your first step is to connect with other writers. That's what we're going to do here in the Stop Writing Alone podcast. We'll do writing prompts and other writing group activities, discover online writing communities, learn how to find local writing groups, or how to make your own. Join us as we explore, learn, and write. Hi, this is Nicole Rivera, and you're listening to the Stop Writing Alone podcast. 'Tis the season of oncoming graduation. And every year, as we hit the end of May, I find myself thinking of higher education. And at this point in my life, as I am living the life of a writer and I've been pursuing writing goals, I tango with the idea of an MFA, the Masters of Fine Arts. And there's many, many different ways that you can pursue this. It can be in creative writing. It can be in a specific type of writing. When I first started investigating the idea of an MFA, it wasn't quite as diverse, and there weren't so many programs available as there are now. But now it's almost, you can find a program that fits your needs, your desires, your ultimate goals. So the question that I'm faced with at this point is, why haven't I made that investment into an MFA program? And it's kind of a rhetorical question, because I'm totally cool with this decision at this point. But I wonder if somebody else listening is either in an MFA program or thinking about pursuing an MFA program, and maybe thinking, well, Nicole, have you done this? Would you do this? And when they find out they haven't, they may be asking the question of why not. So there are a number of reasons, and this is not to say that I would discourage anybody from pursuing their own MFA if they found the program that fit their needs and it makes sense for them. I think this is a decision like many of our decisions that we make on our own. And there is no one right answer, right? So today's episode is really discussing where I came to the conclusion, for me personally, at this point, that it's not something that I'm pursuing any longer. The first thing that I think I've gotten really, really comfortable with is the fact that I am unapologetically a lifelong learner. And so I don't necessarily need an institution or an organization to hold me accountable to my own growth and my own education. I just am a seeker. I am constantly seeking my distant teachers, my face-to-face teachers. I am constantly seeking not only to learn more and grow from where I am, but to know what is the current and new conversations in the world of writing. Like, that is a thing that I do for fun. So I don't necessarily need the institution to bring that to me. And I also feel like at this point, right? So if we think about how long it has been that I've been seriously, I put on the hat of, I am a writer and I'm doing this. It's about a decade now. And I would have been done with my MFA, in a couple of years. And it wouldn't have lasted me this long. So it kind of feels limiting at this point that an MFA would be there for me for this short amount of time. And then what? So if I were ever to pursue an MFA from this point forward, I think I would have a more a greater understanding that it is just a piece of my learning and not the be all end all. And I think when I first started hearing about these programs, I really did feel like they were these encapsulating things that, like, once you get through them, you're certified, you're out there, you're writing. And now I see that it's just a piece of it, and it's a piece that I can pursue, or I can use my time in different ways. The other thing about that is, and in it being a piece of my learning, it would take a lot of my time, probably a lot of my money, and it would be subscribing to subscribing to this one program and this one school or institution that would provide this degree for me. I would also be subscribing to that school's philosophy. And that's something that I, in this moment, don't feel very comfortable with. I feel like I spent a lot of time in my education, my traditional K through 12, and even my college years in private schools. I was, my parents provided me with a Catholic school education, and very much it was to subscribe to the philosophies and the ideals and the work ethic that were provided in those schools, and that was elementary, middle, and high school. And I see that now for what it was, that while there was a benefit on one end, I felt like there was a loss on another end. There were things that I was never exposed to. And the same continued when I chose a private college. So at this point, I feel like, wow, if I'm going to invest that much time in one institution, I better really be bought in completely on their entire philosophy on writing, on creativity, on, helping me show up to be the best version of me. And currently, I've mentioned this in a couple of episodes, I've been reading the books by Felicia Rose Chavez and Matthew Salisi's, just as two examples of examinations of MFA programs, and how sort of limiting the writing workshop has been for certain populations of writers, basically anyone that's not white, and in some cases also not male and white. And so I'm thinking, well, is there a place out there that would be the fit for me, that's going to give me the widest view? Is there a MFA program that has a philosophy that I do want to subscribe to at this point? And right now, like I said, I'm not really pursuing it, so there might be this really awesome new thinking MFA out there. But the last time I was diving in, I just didn't get really sold on any singular program to bring me that sort of satisfaction. Also, I've become diligent enough to sort of trust myself with my own accountability. I said earlier that I was definitely feeling that I can be accountable for my own education and growth, but I'm also diligent enough to hold myself to deadlines, to get work done, to get writing done, to continually challenge myself and show up to the page. And I think particularly in the beginning, when I was just starting to write, I didn't feel that sort of empowerment that I could do that for myself, and I was always seeking for someone outside to say, yeah, sit down, write, finish this this novel, finish this short story, have it in by this date. All of that was very appealing to me. I mean, think about it. If you've been listening to Stop Writing Alone, and I talk about all the places that really helped me first show up to my own writing, it was NaNoWriMo. It was an outside source saying, hey, see if you can finish a novel in 30 days. And I showed up for that community. I showed up to do that. And kind of realized that while it was this online sort of challenge, it was me that just decided to show up for myself. And I can replicate that now over and over again. So taking all of this in together, the real reason that I haven't invested in an MFA up until this point is that for me, the value equation doesn't really balance out. It's like if I invest that much time and that much money into a singular program, am I going to get much more out of it than what I can do on my own, right? And again, perhaps somebody out there has like, Nicole, this is the MFA program for you. This would be totally worth it. But for me, I don't have that pull because I've found other things I can invest in instead. And I've, replicated this over and over again. First and foremost is I'm investing in me, learning who I am, learning what my voice is, learning what it is that I really want to write about. And I do worry that if I step too deeply into a particular institution, a particular philosophy, that I may lose some of that, So I am investing in that portion of it that I think is important. And I don't know that I was given that sort of autonomy in various school settings that I was in. Again, I was a lot of private school. So perhaps that was that limiting feature, but it is where I'm at right now. The other thing that I can invest in, and this comes to like the money part of it, right? If I'm throwing all my money into an MFA program and all of the fees that come along with that, and buying the books that they want me to buy and reading everything that they want me to read, then I would have less time and money and energy to invest in my own books, the things that I want to be reading right now, in order to learn, in order to expand my exposure to the types of fiction that I may want to write. So that's it. I invest in me and learning about me. I invest in the books that really are, now and talking about what's going on now in writing, and also what's happening now in the publishing world. And I'm not saying that MFAs wouldn't do that, but it's like the fact that I get to choose, that I walk into a bookstore and I choose what it is that I want to write and what I want to read. It does feel like that just fits me better right now. And maybe that ties into the whole like getting to know me. What is it that I like to read? Giving myself that opportunity to really explore everything and not just be told like you will read, X, Y, and Z, and that's what you will know, and that's what you will learn from. That's great, and I'm a sucker for book lists. If anybody's got like top books read in all MFA programs, I probably would grab that list up and try to read through it. But then I would read other stuff as well. So, but the other thing that I really, really invest in is my community, and that's here at Stop Writing Alone. It's in the Staten Island Writers Group. It's with the happy campers in Stop Writing Alone. And I think that before I had all those avenues to community and writing community, that was the greatest appeal for an MFA program for me. I mean, obviously, if I started a podcast called Stop Writing Alone, I've had this desire to stop writing alone for a while. And, an MFA is a really great place to find your people. It's like, wait, you also invested time and money in your writing, and you're showing up here to learn about it like I am? You must be my people. So that continues to always be a great draw of those types of programs. But if I'm finding it in other places and I'm really like finding my people, then this is, like I said, where that value equation is not really balancing out, because I don't need the MFA anymore for that. And I want to just remind everybody that you don't either. And I'm not saying that you should say, oh, I don't want to do an MFA. If you do want to do one and it fits for you, that's do it. Absolutely do it. But if the singular draw is finding community, aside from communities like Stop Writing Alone, where you can find people, you can do what I did and create your own. You can literally just step out and say, I want to do this, and start connecting and finding people. Like, seriously, if I did it, you can do it. So just want to throw that out there. And the biggest investment that I make, that sort of is my contribution to like tipping my value equation, is constantly investing in my learning. Like I said, I feel very responsible for my own learning. I geek out on it. I love it. So aside from the books and the, and there's books that I'm reading, but there's books that I'm doing, like the writing exercise books. There's writing prompt things that sort of just take me in new directions. But there's also investing in my learning in a more traditional sense of seeking out teachers. And that's Masterclass, which I'm now, I think this June, I'll be going on year 3 of Masterclass. And they just keep adding more writing teachers on there. And it's not like a traditional class, and every teacher is different, and some writers are better teachers than others. But I promise you, I've gotten at least one good tip from every single writing masterclass that I've gotten on there. And what I love about Masterclass is that it's not just writers, right? So I can explore other interests and learn about other things. And I feel like that does all feed back into my writing. And that's something that, any master's program you lose, right? One of the things I loved about college, I went to a liberal arts college, is that I was learning about everything in the first couple of years. And then suddenly, as we were like honing in on our major, I was an education major. It was just like education. And I was like, whatever, make me a double major. I want to have something else going on. So I double majored in mathematics and education, just to diversify what I was talking about every day. And then I went one class away from a minor in Spanish, because I was like, I still need something else. So I love having that diversification of education. And I think I didn't think about it, but that's probably one of the reasons too that I haven't invested in an MFA program, because I do feel like it's so hyper focused that perhaps it wouldn't appeal to me in that way. I don't know, guys. I feel like maybe I need to like get some diagnosis on this fact that I need to juggle 1,000 things at once. But also, another way that I've invested in my learning, aside from something large like Masterclass, is also finding like my closer teachers and people that are providing like very specific types of courses, right? So in June, Tammy Brightweiser, who I've interviewed here on the Stop Writing Alone podcast, and she's been a part of the Happy Campers in previous sessions. She's running what she's calling the Fabulous Flash Fiction, like a mini course. It's just is it 1 week? No, I think it's like 1 week in June. And so I've signed up for that, because I know that she is so diligent and well-read and looking into really examining flash fiction and, the preciseness of a sentence. And it's like, well, I'm getting better at writing short stories after the last year, but I still know that flash fiction is where I need to work. And why not spend time with another teacher learning whatever it is that they've learned, soak it up. There's, I know I know, Tammy, there's going to be community in there. I'm going to have more people to connect with. So that's another way I'm investing in my learning. And then I'm always investing and looking, and I have my radar up for various conferences. And that can go from something like BookCon or Comic-Con, which sound like they're just like fun, escapes. But the panels in these things, you're going to see panels with authors always talking about the writing process. And I've got my notebooks filled every time I go. And then just, was it last month? No, I think it was February. Might have been February. I went to the AWP 2021 conference, which was specifically very serious, all about writing, all panels. So these are the things that I'm constantly looking into investing in my education. And so the really big reason that I haven't invested in an MFA program is because I feel like I'm living the thing that MFA programs would provide for me. So I don't know if anybody else comes to this part of the year. Maybe for you, it's the beginning of the school year. And you start to think about formalizing your education. And if you have any sort of debate or question about this, I thought I would just share my, where I've come to my decision. I think in previous years, it was more about convincing myself, like, yeah, you don't need it because you're doing it. And here's how, Nicole. And now I'm sort of beyond that convincing and just like, yeah, it's not for me at this point in my life. I'm more interested in just doing all that stuff. And I don't know when I became this person, this woman of action, that like when I come up with an idea, rather than sort of like, muddle over it, it's just sort of like, well, maybe if I just do it, I'll figure out if I want to do it. It's kind of ridiculous, but it works. So I'm fumbling through the my own formation of my education, and I'm no longer obsessed with formalizing it. I no longer need an external stamp of approval to say I've done all of the things. And I don't know if that came with age. I don't know if that came with experience. But that's where I'm at. And so in case anybody was wondering why Nicole has not gotten an MFA, Nicole is no longer doom scrolling almost through all the MFA ads that still pop up, of course, in all my social media, because I'm constantly writing about and talking about writing. That's why it's not really for me at this point. But I would love to hear from you guys. Are you in an MFA program? Have you already completed an MFA program? Are you exploring MFA programs? Or are you at a point where that's not really, where you're at? I'm really curious for if I could do a little time travel with myself and just go meet Nicole, graduating college. Would I say, hey, little Nicole, you know what you should do next? You should get an MFA. That was at a different place in time. Maybe that would have made more sense. But right now, for me, I'm not doing it, and I cannot see at this point a place where I would totally flip and say I'm doing it, but I will never say never, especially when education is in the conversation. But yeah, let me know where are you at in this formalizing of your education, and what do you invest in terms of developing your craft, being the best writer you can be. Is it just showing up and making sure you're doing your writing and that's enough? Like perhaps you're at a point in your writing that you say, I'm just going to keep doing it. Or are you finding other spaces to get this type of education. Yeah, I'm always curious. Because, I mean, do you get it? Like, if you tell me, then I'll be like, oh, maybe that's something I should add to my repertoire. But, yeah. That is it for me. I am sitting here with a pile of books, still not home just yet. And we went to a bookstore, Books A Million, here in Florida. I've never been to a Books A Million. But, of course, I found my way over to the section on writing and bought 3 different books on writing, and this is, further investing in myself. I've got, just because it's kind of related to our conversation, 2 books from the San Francisco Writers Grotto. If you haven't checked out these books that they do, filled with prompts and exercises, they have all different themes that they do. So I found their book on writing dialogue, and at home I have writing humor, and I believe writing character are the 2 that I have at home. And those were all from like the first series that they did. And then it looks like this last year they just started getting into genre, because what I also picked up at Books A Million was writing sci-fi and fantasy. So excited about that. And then I was kind of looking at this other book that I must have lingered over too long, because while I said I shouldn't get this because I have to pack it to bring it home, my husband was like, you're getting it because I'm getting it for you. And that is 27 Essential Principles of Story by Daniel Joshua Rubin. And the subtitle is Master the Secrets of Great Storytelling from Shakespeare to South Park. And this book looks kind of fascinating, and it looks like if I go through it from cover to cover, it could be sort of like a mini MFA in and of itself. So there's that, there's just all of these resources out there. There's not enough hours in the day to get through them all, but I try. I do try. So, yeah, have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you, as always, for listening. I will check in with you next week, and by that point, I should be back in New York, which is wonderful and sad. But thanks, as always, for listening, and thank you for putting up with whatever weirdness comes along with me recording on the road. And don't forget that every single Friday I'm over on the NV Rivera YouTube channel. This week I will be sharing a creative nonfiction writing exercise for you to do. And I always say those things feed our fiction. If you are just strictly a fiction writer, I think this week's exercise is something of a back to basics exercise that I'm really curious to see what everybody thinks of. So, yeah, that's this Friday. Otherwise, be back here next week. Stop Writing Alone, and I'll talk to you then. Happy writing.
Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the Stop Writing Alone podcast wherever you're listening to this episode today. Then connect with us on Facebook at Stop Writing Alone Facebook page, or in the Stop Writing Alone with Nicole Rivera Facebook group. Check Instagram or Twitter, where I'm at NV_Rivera, to find links to our email newsletter. Recording, hosting, editing, producing. It's so much work. Disaster has struck. I finished my coffee. Tell me coffee is coming. ko-fi.com/stop writing alone.